A groundbreaking study is suggesting regular physical activity is linked to larger brain volume. This could impact decision-making, memory, and learning.
Why did you smirk when you looked at me that way?
I'm keeping my comments to myself.
Clearly more exercise is needed on this end of the desk, right? Here to explain what this could mean for those who are getting their steps in is our 9 News health expert, Dr. Payal Kohli. Dr. Kohli, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Okay,
both
first,
exercisers, right?
Yeah, yes.
Him more than me, actually.
Regularly. Why was this study conducted in the first place?
Well, you know, it's fascinating. We've been looking at the effects of exercise on the brain for decades, and we saw that people who exercised even as few as 4,000 steps a day had a lower risk of developing dementia. So the authors of this study said, let's look and see what the mechanism of that is. Is the size of the brain actually changing? So they scanned the head using MRI, actually scanned the whole body of over 10,000 people, asked them to report how much they exercised. And what they found is the ones that exercised are associated with a bigger brain, larger brain volumes.
What kind of exercise are we talking about here? I mean, like, does it have to be crazy
Can you
workouts?
get away with a brisk walk?
No,
yeah.
And here's the thing, that's what was really key about this. We talk about 10,000 steps, we talk about 5 days a week, but this was as little as 2.5 days a week, 10 continuous minutes of getting your heart rate up. So that could even be a brisk walk, as you said, or jogging, of course, you know, jumping jacks, aerobics, anything like that. But 10 minutes, 2.5 days a
Doable.
week. Yeah, and that's associated with the larger brain volume. Really very fascinating.
When you say larger brain volume, what exactly are you talking about?
So this was really great. Every single part of the brain, basically, that you can think of. So the control centers, which is called the gray matter, that was larger. The cables that connect the control centers, that's called the white matter, those were larger. But even different lobes and different functions. So the frontal lobe, which is involved in our personality and our executive function, our language processing, that was larger. Our occipital lobe, which is involved in our vision and how we kind of process space. And then, of course, parts of the brain involved in memory that could be, you know, hurt in Alzheimer's dementia, like the hippocampus, and then even parts of the brain that are involved in how we feel sensation.
This is huge.
Yeah.
Was there a difference between men and women?
So women exercised less. So, you know, the brain size can actually be a little bit different as well. Okay. So they tried to adjust as much of that as they could, you know, how much you exercise, your gender, all of that. So we really tried to compare women to women and men to men. Okay. But certainly behaviorally, women in general tend to exercise a little bit less than men.
What would you say a recommended, like if you were to give us a prescription for exercise right now, what would you recommend that, you know, is accessible to most people out there?
So the American Heart Association says 150 minutes a week. So that's usually about 30 minutes, 5 days a week. So I tell people you can take the weekends off. But this type of science, I think, is pushing the envelope and the needle, saying we don't have to do those 30 minutes. It can even be as little as 10 minutes a day. But just make sure you get moving, make sure you get your heart rate up, because we know that when your circulation is better, your heart is pumping more blood to the brain, you actually get release of what's called growth factors, these chemicals that help our brain cells to grow, repair, regenerate. Now, this study itself doesn't establish causation, so that's important to keep in mind. Is it that the people who exercised just happened to have bigger brains and that made them exercise more, or is that the exercise caused the bigger brain? So we don't know which way that
Which comes first, the chicken or the egg, or does it kind of just all propel one another?
Together,
right? Exactly.
Right. But we think because we see growth factors being released when you exercise that help the brain grow, we see inflammation go down in the brain when you exercise, we see better circulation. We think that it's probably the exercise leading to some of these protective effects on the brain.
That's why my brain's so big.
I also think, you know, it's great to hear the numbers behind it, because you can get so overwhelmed by thinking 5 days a week, I don't do any right now, or I do one.
People,
yeah, so this is attainable.
Right, and 4,000 steps can be as little as just parking your car far away when you're running your errands and those types of things, but just making sure you get that heart rate up, because you really want 10 minutes of a higher heart rate to get some of these benefits.
This is why your head's so big. I mean, your brain, yeah.
All of the above, right? Dr. Kohli, thank you so much.